So for Rice University, we're looking at a couple of different things. We want to see broad perspectives in our students, differing points of view. We don't want to put together a class of all the same type of student. We're also looking for just kind of a look at your impact that you've had in your community, in your school, your extracurriculars, and we're seeing your interests as they span across your different experiences within high school. Yeah, so we're a holistic review. So we look at all parts of the application, not just your test scores. But as far as getting an idea of the test scores that we have admitted in the past, we do have a mid 50% range on our website that you can check out. But always keep in mind that that is just the mid 50% range, and it's just admitted students. So a lot of the students that have actually come to Rice have fallen outside of the range. Because again, there's not one part of our application that's weighted any heavier than the other part. We look at all parts, your transcripts, your activities, your essays, all of it. We look at your test scores too, but everything is taken into account. Nothing is heavier than the other. Yeah, so for any juniors, I would recommend visiting campus. We do track demonstrated interest, so we like to see how many times you come visit us. I would also look into your activities, make sure that you're doing something that you're passionate about, something that's genuine that will read across in your application, not just some community service hours thrown in there. We want to track how long you've been doing an activity. We like to see genuine application.
Again, because ours is based on just really two criteria, we don't really do qualitative unless you do fall in that. There is one other aspect that you can be admitted. It's called individual review, where a review committee will take a look at your application. That's if you don't fall in that top 50, maybe you're in the last quartile, or your school doesn't rank, you go to a home school, a private school, things like that, or maybe you had a bad test day where your test scores aren't quite so high. But then at that point, then we do look at a student more holistically. We look at their GPA, what classes they're taking, what school they go to, if they're taking any advanced classes, if they're taking any dual credit. At that point, it's more qualitative. But again, that only happens if you fall in that individual review.
I'm really just, I think we're looking more for students who enjoy a small campus. We're considered mid-size, so looking more for kind of the sense of community. Of course, someone who is interested in a major that we have is always important, and our school has tons of school spirit, so someone who likes to get involved in things I think is good too. Schools that don't rank, what we generally will do is look at the second quarter. So if you're looking at in our booklet, you'll see the second quarter and see what test scores are required. However, if they would have been falling into like the top 10% or something like that, and counselors are willing to write a letter, we can use that letter, especially for like scholarship opportunities.
So thank you for the question. At UCLA and the UC system, when we are reviewing applications, what we're looking for is a well-rounded student. We want to see rigor, obviously, and the GPA and the grades there, but we also want to see students that also have leadership, have extracurricular activities, the students that go above and beyond. So the UCLA application, along with all the other UCs, so this pertains to everyone, we have what we call, or majority of the UCs, a holistic approach to our application. So we look at both academic and non-academics. So when you say priorities, or if we look what is on that scale, if it's on a priority scale, it's not necessarily, yes, we want to see the academics. Everyone who goes to UCLA is pretty bright, but we also look at the non-academics. So what we look for is your personal insight questions, which are mini essays that you would write about, because we don't take letters of recommendations across all the UCs, we don't. So really dig deep into those, talk about yourself, the good, the bad, the educational barriers you haven't faced or anything like that, because we look at that just as much as we look at your test scores. So the juniors interested in UCLA, thank you first of all for being interested so early on, and right now really start getting focused on zoning in on your extracurricular activities, maybe doing some, starting to prep for your SATs, your ACTs, things like that. We look for consistency and longevity for the students, so really what we want to see is if you're not involved already, start getting involved, start picking up things that you're going to be working on, maybe outside of the class as well, like outside of the school, at your church, at your Relay for Life, things like that, and really just start zoning in because once senior year hits, it's already there. So the seniors currently applying this year, one advice I have for you is the scholarships. And so for out-of-state students, there is a supplemental tuition for students going to the UC system, and that is a very big number. So I would suggest looking for scholarships. We do have a scholarship resource center on campus along with other UCs, and my rule of thumb with scholarships is start looking a year in advance. So for the seniors that are going to be starting in September next year, I would say start looking. It's September this month. This is your time to start looking.
Since we use general admission criteria, there's not really anything else that we look for in students. We do not use ranking, which might be important for students from Texas to know. You won't have to report that to us at all. We find that students who love a big university experience, of course part of the SEC, like the outdoors, a really pretty place, but maybe a school that's not so large, do really well at the University of Arkansas. I would definitely say come visit. The first thing we hear the most is once students come to campus, they say it's so beautiful and just fall in love with it immediately. And we do visits 22 times a week all year long, so students can come visit campus at every different time of year and visit departments during the week.
Yeah, so DBU wants people who want to be at DBU. We have awesome programs that are all centered around the Lord and around service. So we want students who want to come to DBU to learn, to be active in service as well while you're learning. So we look for everything holistically. So we're going to look at your essay, transcripts, and everything. But we are looking for a 2.5 GPA, we want an 1100 on the SAT, and a 21 on the ACT. Yeah, 21. Seniors apply right now. We don't have any kind of early admission. Our admission is rolling. The application deadline is pretty much non-existent. So we say apply early. Let's build that relationship with your counselor. Every counselor has students, a region of students they're assigned to. So we want to build that relationship with you as a student, as a senior, and get to know you and kind of help you specifically as a person in your journey this year, senior year, help you enjoy the most out of it, basically.
That's a great question. So at OU, we have a holistic admissions process. So what that means is that we don't have any automatic admission, no set test scores or GPA. We're looking at the applicant as a whole. We're looking at the application as a whole. So the biggest thing that we look at is going to be academic rigor. So it's going to include things like test score, GPA, types of classes you're taking. High school grades are definitely the most important. After that, we also look at involvement. And so we're looking what you do outside of class, whether you're involved in a club or organization at your school, you do community service, you're an Eagle Scout or Girl Scout, you're in the band, you work a job, all of those sorts of things are really important. And then we also look at the essay as part of your application. And then the last thing that we look at is your letters of recommendation. So all of those things together make up what we look for at OU in students. So my biggest advice to juniors is always to come visit campus. We're only 3 hours away, and so we're not too far. It gives you a feel for what it would actually be like to be a student on our campus. It gives you a feel for what campus life is like, what it would be like I said, to be a student there. And so my biggest recommendation is to come visit. For current seniors, my advice is to apply if you haven't yet. And then after that, I would say make sure you're checking your email regularly. That's the biggest way that we communicate with you. And then also keep in contact with me. I'm your rep for OU, and so it's good to also know me, email me if you have any questions, double check that we have everything.
I'd say the most important qualities we're looking for in candidates, first and foremost, is academic competitiveness. We are definitely looking for a really strong fit for the Baylor classroom. But aside from that, in addition to that, we're really looking for a really strong applicant who's passionate about something outside of class as well, because those are the most successful students that come to Baylor's campus, are those who are passionate inside the classroom, but also outside of the classroom too. Yeah, I'd say for us, with standardized test scores and GPA, that's kind of our first consideration with Baylor. It's hard to say importance, but it's definitely the first thing we look at. While we don't have any required scores for general admission to the university, the most recent incoming freshman class that just started, their average on the ACT was about a 25 to a 30, and on the SAT was about a 1200 to a 1360. Question. First and foremost, come visit. Come see what we have to offer, what a future at Baylor could offer you. Your junior year, that's kind of the perfect time to do that, and looking at where you could fit on campus, or what different research opportunities you could get as a student at Baylor. And then second of all, just go straight for that ACT and SAT, because we super score both of those tests at Baylor. We think it's really important to take both tests if you can, and then retest on the one that you feel more comfortable or that you're better at.
So at TCU, we do a holistic admission process. That means we look at everything with the student. It's not just grades and test scores that are important to us, but everything is important. Now, we first start off with the academics. So we look at your grades, your strength of curriculum, as well as your test scores. But then we move on to other areas, and we look at your resume. And so what have you been involved in? And then have you also given back to your community? We look at that, and then we also look at the writing samples you've submitted, as well as the recommendation letters. I think the best advice that I could give students that are interested in TCU is to first research us. Research our institution, and if you can, come and visit our campus. That's a great way to realize what everything TCU has to offer. But then after that, I would go ahead and start working on my resume, or the student's resume, to see that everything that they're involved in and have it all listed and things like that.
Well, we holistically review, so we look at a number of things. There's not one thing we're more focused on. We're looking at test scores, essays, resume, letters of recommendations. Leadership goes a long way, taking challenging courses. So because we holistically review, we don't have set test scores. We actually don't even look at your GPA, because that's different kind of across the board. But we are looking at the ranking as far as automatic admission goes. UT Austin, we automatically admit right now for our seniors, top 7%. Juniors, we don't know quite yet. It can go up and go down. We're not quite sure. We won't know actually until tomorrow, or September 15th. Outside of that, we holistically review. So regardless, we are going to holistic review and don't have set standards for those. The higher the better, of course.
We're looking, of course, for students who are holistic students. We want them not only to be good inside the classroom, we also want them to be good outside of the classroom. Extracurricular activities, volunteer experience, anything the student wants to add to make themselves a more competitive candidate. In terms of GPA, because we're such a large university and because Texas is such a variety, has such a variety of GPAs that students can look into, we look more at rank, although we know that Capel High School does not have a ranking system. But we look more at rank, and if you don't have a ranking system like Capel does not, what we do actually is we have a system in which we rank the students based on the information the school provides and their transcripts. So we kind of put them in a quartile ranking based on that. And in terms of standardized test scores, we don't care which one you take. We want you to do as best as you can, but we do have automatic thresholds that we indicate on our forms there for students to have. Of course, we want the students to have that code of honor that we have at Texas A&M. So we want them to have at least a standard of excellence that they hold themselves to. And we can look at their application and say that they've been doing them all along. I would tell students that are juniors to actually go ahead and start collecting information about yourself. As you know, Apply Texas is a very resume style application. So make sure that you're collecting all the data and the information regarding even a resume will help you fill out the application much more quickly. And then find something that you're truly interested in and start researching majors. That's going to be very important to the process, especially as you start applying in the summer before your senior year. Current seniors, apply early. You definitely get at Texas A&M the major of your choice on a first come, first served basis once you're admitted into the university. So if you're an automatic student, great, but we definitely want you to go ahead and apply early. As early as you can, and also put forth your best effort. We want to see who you are, not just as a student, but as a person as well.
Texas Tech, we're not only looking for students who are excelling well in their academics as far as, SAT scores, ACT, and doing well, of course, in high school and on their grades, but we're also looking for well-rounded students. So students who are involved in not only their community, but also in their high school as far as extracurricular activities, community service, things like that.
So at Texas Tech, we, for non-ranking high schools such as this, we apply a rank based on our internal ranking system, which we have the last 6 years of data of our students and their test scores and their rank. So it's internal, so that's where working with your admissions counselor like myself and Jermaine here is really important. So we can let you know what the rank is after we receive your test score, and we apply that rank on that. It's a really easy process, and we can help you through that process.
Really look for well-rounded students. Toulouse, a perfect example. Lots of involvement, leadership abilities. Ultimately, when we're reading their application, we want to envision that they will be successful at SMU. We are an academic institution. We do typically have a pretty big emphasis on GPA and test scores. We put every test score unweighted on a 4.0 GPA scale, and last year it was between a 3.4 and 3.9 on average. That's our middle 50%. And then ACT 29 to 33, SAT we just look at 2 sections, critical reading and math, and those were 1330 to 1430 last year.
We practice holistic admissions at Vanderbilt, meaning there is no specific GPA, SAT score that we require, right? So we're looking at the student as a whole. One thing that's kind of a trademark of Vanderbilt is our community, right? So we really want students who are going to contribute in the classroom, right? But who also are going to contribute on campus in the city of Nashville, right? So we're looking for students that are taking that rigorous curriculum, doing well academically, doing well in their tests, but also, right, who are really involved in their high schools and in their communities. So, we evaluate a couple different things. What I tell students a lot of times is in our process at Vanderbilt, kind of that first hurdle is academic achievement and standardized test scores, right? So we are looking for upward grade trends. High school's 4 years, college is 4 years. So we want to see that you're either improving, staying consistent, and then with test scores, right, we take the ACT or the SAT. It's completely up to you. And then there's really no minimum, maximum. We report it in middle 50% ranges. So for juniors interested in Vanderbilt, I think one of the best things you can do, if at all possible, is visit, right? A big part of kind of that college fit is how you feel when you're standing on that campus and you take a tour and you meet those students and feel like, what's that student experience like? If you aren't able to visit, we have a really great, I'm blanking out on what it's called, visual tour, basically, online that you can take to really get a feel, for what that is like. For current seniors, I don't know if you want to hear this, but start your applications as early as you can, right? So if you're putting it off, the earlier you can get it in, kind of the more time you can take to work on those applications. And I think finally, you're going to go somewhere great, right? And so not stressing, really enjoying your senior year while you're working on those applications.
Overall, I think the main things that we're looking for is drive. We want to be able to see from students that you want to come to UNT, that you're driven, that you are capable of being successful as an academic.
and just overall enthusiasm, which we can kind of glean from a variety of factors. So GPA is pretty low on that list just because it is not something that we can really quantify. Every school grades differently, every school scores differently, so that's not something that we look at that much. As a non-ranking school, a lot of the focus is going to be on those test scores, so that's something that I highly recommend, especially if you're going to be trying to get a lot of scholarship money. Test scores are one of the easiest ways to get scholarship money, is having high test scores. But there's a lot of other factors besides that. We also have a holistic review that's entirely unrelated to test scores that is a big part of our review process.